New Jersey Congressman Jeff Van Drew. He's also a member of the Homeland Security Committee. Congressman, welcome. If we could, let's start with your reaction to the tragedy at the Texas synagogue. What's your message to a community that is likely more fearful for their own safety if they visit their house of worship?
Well, the message is the United States of America, its government is with them, and we have to make sure that that's true. I would suggest to President Biden that he speak to his own members of his own party when they come out with anti-Semitic remarks, which they very often have. The extreme progressives have said things, as we all know, that are anti-Semitic. That hurts all of us. It hurts the country. It hurts what happens around the world. So that's number one. He has to get some control in his own party when literally statements are put out as they have been in the past. Secondly, thank God for the training that the people actually had in the synagogue, knowing how to deal with it. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in now. Thirdly, thank goodness the FBI did a good job on this, and this was dealt with in a swift, an appropriate, and forceful way, which is the way that these issues have to be dealt with always. And then finally, this is not a gun issue. This is not about guns. I mean, if you want to talk about more gun regulations and all of that, frankly, what you would find is the more regulated areas, things are even worse. Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, the crime rate is much worse than anywhere else. This is about anti-Semitism. This is about terrorism. This is about something that we cannot tolerate, and we don't know all the issues yet. There's a real connection here with this young woman who is imprisoned right now and is supposed to be imprisoned for about 80 years.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have a few more answers from FBI agents who are now working this case here. In the meantime, let's turn to what's happening on Capitol Hill, where Senate Democrats, they're set to vote on some voting legislation tomorrow. Do you see this passing, considering we've heard vocally from two Democratic senators saying that they would not be in support of changing the filibuster even to get this through?
Yeah, well, first of all, we shouldn't change the filibuster. You know, what's good for Democrats right now someday might not be good, and vice versa. I mean, this is a rule that's there for a very specific reason, to make sure that we're doing the right thing, number one. Secondly, really important with this legislation to realize this isn't really good voting rights legislation. We need good voting rights legislation in each and every state in the country. We need not to federalize it. That's not the answer. What the answer is, though, is to make sure that all the voting rolls are actually clean in each and every state, to make sure that in each and every state that we're doing the right thing and that people have signature ID check, that people actually have an ID check in general. To say that it's anti-voting rights, if you want an ID check, is actually diminishing the intelligence of the American public and all of us of whatever race, color, and creed. We all are capable of having an ID, and we all should. The vast majority of Americans want individuals, when they vote, to have an ID. Why? Because we want to know that that is the person who's voting, that they really are representing themselves, and that nothing untoward is happening here. We need to do much better with voting integrity. This does not represent voting integrity. In fact, a good part of it is voting disintegrity, if there is such a word, to be honest with you. Well, even I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It's not. At the end of the day, it can't. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. Looking like they won't have the votes, quite frankly. And we've seen this before with the president's own Build Back Better agenda. In fact, Democratic Senator Tim Kaine offering up his own grim outlook for that bill. Take a listen to this.
Even the White House economist is using the past tense when referring to Build Back Better. It's dead. You don't have the votes in the Senate.
I don't agree with you, Margaret. You're right that it's dead. The most recent version of it is not going to happen. But I still believe we're going to find a core of this bill, whatever we call it. We're going to find a core of the bill and pass it. And it will deal directly with some of these inflation concerns.
And inflation is a major concern right now, Congressman. Do you see BBB in a different form passing anytime soon?
Well, I'd love to know what his core is, because if his core is more taxes, more red tape, more fees, more charges. If his core is all that is wrong with the bill, if his core is tree equity, which tell me what the heck tree equity is. I still can't find anybody who knows what it is. If his core is actually spending trillions and trillions more, which will actually hurt and make inflation worse, that's a bad core. So we, number one, want to know what his core would be before we could even have an intelligent discussion on this. Let me say it simple. Let me say it clear. This is a real bad bill. Everybody has a different acronym for it. Mine is the big bad bill. Okay. It could be a country western song, to be honest with you. We shouldn't go forward with this bill. It isn't good. Thank God the infrastructure bill was separated out, which is what I knew would happen. And then when it was separated, people on both sides of the aisle voted for infrastructure, which is something that was a straight up hard infrastructure bill, which gives no reason for Manchin or, quite frankly, anybody who's moderate to want to vote for BBB the way that it is now, because all they really wanted was really to get the infrastructure bill, a straight up, real bridges, roads, drainage, et cetera, infrastructure bill. And the interesting part of that now is, now that that has been done, I think it's going to be impossible for them to get this bill done. So that was actually a good thing in the end.
Bipartisan infrastructure plan was through American Rescue Plan as well, but BBB and this voting rights legislation still TBD, although essentially looking unlikely.
Terrible
Congressman
bill.
Jeff Andrew, thanks so much, sir. We appreciate you taking the time.
Always a pleasure to be with you. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.